Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Gina Gleason. I'm leader of the Real Impact team and host of the Real Impact Town Hall. And I'm so excited to have you tonight because our setup is a little bit different this month. We usually have someone live in the audience here with us, but today we have someone who's far across the country and is with us remotely. And my guest tonight is Kristan Hawkins. She is the president of Students for Life. And this woman is just so amazing. I have so much admiration for her and the work that she does, training up young Christian students across our nation at the college campuses. And she is such a blessing to the pro-life movement and the pro-life community. She's a wife, she's a mother, she's a podcaster, she's an author, she's you name it, Kristan does it. And I see her all over the place as we're out across the country attending different meetings. I just saw her this past week in Washington. And it's always a pleasure to talk with her. And Kristan, thank you so much for being with me tonight.
Thanks for having me, Gina. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Kristan, better than me reading your bio, I want you to tell us a little bit about your organization, Students for Life.
Sure. Well, Students for Life is the nation's largest grassroots organization. We are honored to serve more than 1,300 chapters on college and high school campuses across the country in all 50 states. In the past 16 years since I launched Students for Life, we've trained over 150,000 young people. They were Gen Y and now they're Gen Z members, those who are directly targeted by the abortion industry. And our mission on campuses and in communities is really to have conversations that produce conversions and then produces activations for our movement. Because we know we need this youth generation to lead the charge, to really achieve our ultimate goal in the now post-Roe era of this movement.
So I think your story is also interesting about how you got started. Tell us what motivated you, because there's a lot of young people out there who are very passionate about defending the unborn. So tell your story about why you got started.
Sure. I got started in the pro-life movement when I was about 15 years old. A woman at my church was serving as a part-time accountant at a local pregnancy center. And I was looking for a summer volunteer opportunity and internship. And she said, why don't you come work with me at this women's center? So I would like to be able to say I knew exactly what I was getting myself into and agreeing to head to that pregnancy center that day. But God obviously had a plan for me to walk into that pregnancy center, and really just to have an incredible mentorship there with the director or the team there, to invest in me and to train me at 15 years old to become a counselor there at the center. And that really propelled all of my work in the pro-life movement, going back to my high school and starting a Students for Life group before there was a Students for Life group, getting involved in local politics, joining my local Republican club. I was like the youngest one there by 5 decades, but getting involved in local politics and all of these actions that were taken in my life kind of stem from that first day of saying yes and going into that pregnancy center and truly learning the horror of abortion and meeting firsthand the women who are really the number one targets for the abortion industry. Poor, low-income women who are told that they would just be better off to have an abortion, and really getting to hear their stories of their past abortion, stories about the violence that they've endured in their own lives, and really coming to understand full circle that, not only does abortion end a precious, unique, created in His image human life, it also destroys her and can destroy her family in the process.
Well, that's amazing, starting so young. At 15, I didn't think of ever doing anything like that. So going back to being that young, what do you advise young women or young girls even at 15 years old to do to get involved in the pro-life movement?
There's a lot of ways you can get involved, and what we've tried to do at Students for Life is really kind of make it as easy as possible for a young person to say yes to, start a pro-life group at their school, to host events. The first thing I always encourage the students I meet is, to be willing to just raise your hand, to be that person in your classroom to say, I don't think this is right, or be willing to put a pro life sticker on your laptop or on your planner at school to start having conversations. To just simply talk about Standing With You, which is one of our initiatives at Students for Life, where it's just a website where women can go, place a phone call, start a chat, put in a zip code, and instantly get connected to nonviolent alternatives, resources in their community. And just simply start, find a way to just start having those discussions. And then you'll want to learn more. You're going to want to learn how to answer these hard questions that come to you. And then, we have Students for Life HQ, where all of our trainings we give online, in person, are also online. And there's other, amazing pro-life organizations to follow and learn from, because then you'll start, once you kind of just raise your hand and you start having those conversations, you're going to want to delve deeper into this issue and to learn more, and to say, wait a minute, if I can make an impact here, there's other places I can make impacts in.
Yeah, great. Now, Kristan, you have young children, and so how young should parents start talking to their children about pro-life and what abortion is? What do you suggest for the
Yeah.
average family that is not in the pro-life movement?
That's hard, because I obviously don't have an average family. My kids have always heard the word abortion, from any age, whether they're in the car with me, or they're in my office, they're next to me at the kitchen table, they're going to hear that word come out of my mouth. I think, the first step is to, at a very early age, and this is important for Christians to do, regardless of whether or not you ever want to talk about abortion, which you should, but, to make sure we're emphasizing whose image we are created in. And it is extremely important for our young people, especially those in middle and high school who are, undergoing a lot of questioning. Some of the, don't get me started about the gender ideology stuff that's happening right now in our schools. I know you all have certainly talked a lot about that, Real Impact, Gina, but talking about how you were created with purpose, and you were created in his image, and God doesn't make mistakes, and how every person was created in his image and has purpose. I think that's number one, the first thing we have to do, because I have to tell you, in the past 2.5 years, I've seen a noticeable trend on campuses when I'm dialoguing with young people and I come up to my speeches, where the concept that humans have value is being lost. Where I'm not even arguing or debating or disagreeing with somebody who equally agrees with me that human beings have value. I'm now having conversations with people who will say openly, in front of a whole room of students, that human beings have no value. In fact, some of them will go as far as to say human beings are a scourge on this earth, that we're destroying earth, and we should selectively reduce ourselves. So I think that's the first thing. I think then you talk about the miracle of fetal development, of how a human being develops, how you as a child developed in your mom's belly, and talk about just the miracle of birth. I think that's a really great way at a very early age to start talking about this issue without really going into the violence of abortion. And then you have to start talking about, there's some people believe in something called abortion. Abortion is when a mommy gives money to a doctor, and a doctor ends her baby's life. And you don't have to go into graphic detail, but then there'll be the question of why. Why would somebody do that? Why would a mom do that? Well, some moms are scared. Some moms don't have, they don't have a job, and you have to go into those, the why, and the questions, and then you go into what happens during an abortion. And like I said, it's depending on their age. When my son was 10, we talked we talked in detail about abortion. But now my second son, who is now 12, we have not had that discussion.
Okay, well, I think that's great advice, and probably a lot of parents have never heard that, so thanks for that. And also, I think that what you're saying right now has contributed to the reason that this generation, this young generation, is more pro-life than ever. Is it true that our young generation is more pro-life than ever?
It's absolutely true that. I mean, you don't have to go very far. You can go to the March for Life in Washington, D.C., the world's largest social mobilization. No cause in the history of the world turns out more people every year than the annual March for Life. And that March for Life is led by young people, right? One year I made the mistake of actually trying to register voters. And it was this epic disaster, Gina, because I had all these people out there with iPads. We were at the end of the march. One, it was too cold for iPads, and Californians would not understand. But if you get too cold, your fingers don't work on the iPads. Two, the majority of the people were under 18 and couldn't register to vote. So that is led a lot by the church, especially the Catholic Church in America, that has really had that conversation with young people and drives young people out and puts this a part of their whole calendar year to be in Washington, D.C. every January. So absolutely. I think the tired old arguments of the pro-abortion movement, that it's a blob of tissue, it's nothing, it doesn't hold weight when you consider this generation has grown up seeing their moms, ultrasound images of their brothers and sisters or their cousins. And so they've seen that window of into the womb. And I think that for them has had a significant impact.
So excellent. I've always wanted to go out to Washington for the March for Life. How can a person get information about that?
Yeah, you can go, you can go to the March for Life's website, marchforlife.org. Students for Life is honored. We co-host an event, the National Pro-Life Summit, every year. It's the day after the march. It's the world's largest pro-life conference. It's prolifesummit.org. We do that with Alliance Defending Freedom, Heritage Foundation. We have about 40 national pro-life groups. It's for adults and young people combined. It's just an incredible event. The goal of the weekend is you come to the pro-life march, you become inspired, you realize you're not alone, and then the next day you drop yourself into training with the entire pro-life movement to kind of get those marching orders for what you need to do when you go back home, no matter where you live, even if it's in California.
Yeah, even in California. Well, there's a lot going on in California and Kansas and Washington, D.C. So let's switch over and talk a little bit about what happened in Washington. Roe v. Wade was overturned by the Supreme Court. Can you explain that to people in layman's terms?
Yeah, so 1973, 7 men decided to issue Roe versus Wade and its companion case, Doe versus Bolton. Roe and Doe combined allowed for abortion all 9 months of pregnancy for whatever reason. When that decision came down, it invalidated all the state laws that were in existence. Now we know California, Hawaii, New York, Colorado, before 73 had legalized abortions in some circumstances, but for the most part, majority of states did not allow abortion. This decision in 73 told all states that they had no say in abortion policy. The reversal in the Dobbs decision on June 24th, which I had the honor of being in front of the court with our Students for Life leaders while that was happening, and to be able to read that decision in front of the audience gathered there, that decision was based on a Mississippi case. The state of Mississippi had passed a law banning abortions when a child is scientifically proven to feel pain at 15 weeks. Of course, that violated Roe versus Wade. And Mississippi decided that they were going to take this to the Supreme Court. The Attorney General went to the Supreme Court, argued that not only should Mississippi's case be upheld, but really Roe should be reversed because it's inconsistent with science. States, their argument was that states should have the right to protect its citizens. And so in the Dobbs decision, Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Bolton were reversed. Casey v. Planned Parenthood, which was another big, large abortion ruling in the early 90s, which reaffirmed Roe and held that states still must have abortion, even though Casey said, well, states can regulate abortion are allowed to regulate abortion after a child can survive outside the womb at 24 weeks. But it was a momentous day, because what it did was, it didn't, it would have been a better day if the Supreme Court would have said, we have found in the Constitution, which it is, that life should be protected and there's no abortion. But that's not what they did. They said, this is going to go back to the states. States are we're going to go back to, pre-1973, before, 7 activist judges decided to make laws, because that's not our job. And we're supposed to read what's in the Constitution, and this is clearly not in the Constitution at all. And so that's exactly what happened. And so now states have the ability now to make abortion illegal, or to severely restrict abortions in their states.
Okay, yeah, well, that was a great victory for the pro-life movement. And were you surprised that it happened?
No, I wasn't surprised. We've been praying for this for some time, because of, President Trump's promises. President Trump, love him or hate him, he was the first presidential candidate to come out and say, I will only appoint pro-life Supreme Court justices. And throughout his presidency, he did that. He continued to do that. He never stopped doing that. And so because of that, we knew we had a really good shot. I listened to the oral arguments on December 1st, and I could tell just from the arguments that the state of Mississippi made, and the poor argument that the abortion facility in Mississippi made, and the questions that the Supreme Court justices were asking, things were looking very, very good. And then, of course, there was the leak in May. Now, there was a lot of question about how verifiable that leak was, and what else was going to happen. And, the goal of the leak from the, which, by the way, we never found out who the leaker is. If it had been a conservative, we would have already known. But the goal of that leak was to pressure the court to change their mind. And thankfully, the justices did not bow to the pressure and the death threats that they have since received.
Okay, so with that decision, what has changed for Students for Life? Have your plans changed in any way? Are you expanding, or what do you plan to do now that we've had this victory?
Yeah, what's so unique about Students for Life is, when I launched Students for Life 16 years ago, it was just my 16th anniversary of Students for Life, like last week, I realized it, is we really founded ourselves to be a post-Roe organization. And it was funny, when I remember I would go to the fundraisers and talk to folks after we launched Students for Life and tell them we are the post-Roe organization. We were preparing this army to lead the movement after Roe had been reversed. I remember a couple years in, I had gotten some wise counsel from one of my mentors, who told me, you need to stop saying this. You need to stop saying Roe versus Wade's been reversed. Nobody believes you. I know you really believe it, you're passionate about it, but you just sound too idealistic. The good news was, we never really stopped saying that. And so we set up the entire organization at Students for Life, and then now our sister organization, Students for Life Action, which is a political advocacy group, to really set up this army, to be the ones. My goal was, the moment Roe is reversed, there needs to be a trained, ready army in all 50 states who knows their marching orders, knows what they need to do to go to the state houses, to make abortion available, but also work in their communities to make it unthinkable, and to highlight all of the nonviolent resources that are already out there for her. And that's exactly what we did. I mean, the day after Roe was reversed, our students were knocking on doors in suburban Washington, D.C., 2,000 doors, highlighting all the pregnancy centers in the nearby area. The Saturday after, we were at 30 different state capitals with Life is Louder counter rallies. In the week since, we've been active in Indiana, West Virginia, and I think I was just approving something for South Carolina, and there's special sessions. Our teams have been working with the legislators there to pass laws. And so really, our strategy hasn't shifted. In fact, I was lamenting to our staff, we never really had like a victory party for reversing Roe, this huge thing that happened. It was just, the next day of work, it was, all right, everything we've been preparing for, launch, go, do. And that's really what we've been doing.
Well, you can celebrate at the next March for Life, which will probably be the biggest one ever, right?
Yes, it should be a very big celebration. And hopefully, I hope it's a celebration, but also hope it's a mobilization point for folks to realize now is not the time to step away. And as what we've seen, Gina, and you and I have talked about, of just the complete onslaught of misinformation that's been out there. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised that the abortion industry tries to mislead and fearmonger. I mean, they advocate for ending the lives of the most vulnerable, most precious human beings, babies. But that's what we've seen. And so it's been a massive amount of work. And really, this is really when the work begins. We have more than 3,000 pregnancy centers and maternity homes that vastly outnumber the fewer than 600 abortion facilities across our country. Yet 75% of the neighbors that we've talked to, the 120,000 households we visited in the last year in neighborhoods surrounding abortion facilities in 20 cities, 75% of people we talked to didn't even know pregnancy resource centers exist. So, I mean, we have a lot of work to do just on elevating the alternatives, the nonviolent alternatives, showing our communities that abortion is never needed. And then, disputing the misnomers and the fear mongering and the lies the abortion industry is propagating right now about abortion laws and what the true intentions of pro-lifers really are. And to make this country and make its citizens excited by the prospect that we are now living in a post-Roe era, that we are now living in an era that says, no, you do not have the right to end the life of another human being simply because of their size, location, circumstance of conception, or convenience factor.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. And the thought of a baby actually being aborted is just so hard to think about. And now with, like you said, with the sonograms that we have and the videos that we have of babies in the womb moving and alive, it's just so terrible to think about a baby being murdered in the womb. But there's different procedures for abortion. And we all know about the clamps and all these tools that are used to abort a baby, but there's also a medical abortion. Can you describe that? And there's different pills that people may not even know that this is out there and becoming more and more popular in the United States.
Yeah, we call them chemical abortions. I don't call them medical abortions. That's their language, because medication is supposed to help you, not kill you. And these pills are intended for death. So chemical abortion cocktails right now are 2-drug cocktail. The first drug with Kristan stops basically the nutrients, the hormones from being produced that feeds the child, allows the child to grow. And then the second drug, Kristal, actually induces contractions and causes what they call just an induced miscarriage, an abortion. And this is something that is extremely painful. These abortions can last for weeks. There's actually a really interesting pro-abortion HBO documentary about chemical abortion pills, which made our point very clearly. These are very dangerous abortions. About 15% of them actually don't complete, that a woman still will need to go and get a surgical abortion because all of her pieces of the placenta and her child, the contents of her uterus, they call it, do not evacuate through these contractions. There's very heavy bleeding. We know of 24 women who died from these pills. We know in California, the ER rate went up 500% for Medicaid users since there's a 500% increase in abortion-related ER visits since introduction of these drugs in the market. These drugs are very dangerous. We actually don't know the full ramification of these drugs because we don't actually have a national abortion reporting law because the abortion industry doesn't want to have to report complications. So it's still very hard to get all the complications, but these are gruesome, painful abortions. She's literally told to sit on the toilet and just keep flushing and not to look. You can, if you've ever watched the movie about Abby Johnson's conversion to the pro-life movement unplanned, there's the most gruesome scene in the whole movie is during her second abortion, which was a chemical abortion. We, on California college campuses, when we were fighting back against SB 24, took toilet bowls and toilet seats at campuses. And it was not hard to get even pro-choice leaning young people to sign our petition against toilet bowl abortions. Realizing, wait a minute, I don't want women aborting in the public bathrooms on my campus. And so, so that's, these are, the main thing you need to realize is these pills lead to infertility, injury, and death. One of the things that we saw during once the Biden administration took over during the COVID crisis was the abortion lobby used COVID to really push these drugs. And they pushed the FDA to get rid of all the REMS on the drugs, risk evaluation mitigation strategies. About 70 drugs out of thousands have REMS attached to them. Chemical abortion is one of those drugs. The abortion lobby argued that that was unfair. It was too dangerous to have women to go into an abortion clinic to make sure, like, she's actually pregnant, that she has an ultrasound done to ensure she's not experiencing a life-threatening ectopic pregnancy, or to even get a blood test to make sure she's not Rh negative. They said she should just be able to take a pregnancy test at home and take these pills. And the Biden administration sadly agreed with her. And this past December, they got rid of all the REMS. And what's interesting about this, and what no one's talking about, especially in something that's, we're considered in this like infertility epidemic, where we all know someone who's struggling with infertility, is these drugs can make her unable to ever carry another child to term again. If she's Rh negative, does not have that blood test done, has the abortion, does not get a Rogan shot, her body will form antibodies that will attack every future pregnancy that she has, which may make her unable. She can get pregnant, but unable to gestate another human being, to term again. This is something that is simply not talked about. No one's even talking about, but this is common sense. Any woman who's ever been pregnant, one of the first things they do at the OB's office is administer a blood test to see Rh negativity status. And this is common sense stuff that the abortion industry has just gotten rid of.
So are the young people on college campuses getting this information? Is it just through your organization, or how should they learn about this and tell their family and friends about the chemical abortion?
We have a docuseries we produced with Charlotte Pence Bond and in Harpy International about a year ago called This is Chemical Abortion. It's like 5 or 6 5-minute short episodes. I would encourage you to go to thisischemicalabortion.org.com, watch that docuseries, share it, because she's not getting this information at all. And this is being sold that this is an easier abortion. It's not surgery. And you can go to we actually at This is Chemical Abortion website, you can download just a booklet we made for members of Congress, 70 pages of just testimonials of women that we found who openly, without prompting, online, are talking about how horrific these abortions are. Some of these women don't regret the abortion. Some of these women still call themselves pro-choice, but are going online, sharing with other women how painful and dangerous these abortions are. And this is information that's freely accessible.
Wow, it just sounds really horrible. And every aspect of abortion is horrible. But the thought of a late-term abortion is just horrendous. And they do take place in the United States. Can you explain what a late-term abortion is?
Yeah, sadly, a late-term abortion does still happen in the United States. A lot of people, I'll do radio interviews or speak on campus, and people will actually tell me, you're lying. No one does late-term abortions. It's not hard. You can go to Google, type in Dr. Leroy Carhart, who's committing abortions in Nebraska and Maryland. There's an abortion facility in Albuquerque, which is really the late-term abortion facility capital of the world, Dr. William Hearn in Boulder, Colorado. These are guys who are committing abortions into the 9th month of pregnancy. 9 months. 9 months. Women across the world fly to Albuquerque, New Mexico to abort their child. The most common way to do a late-term abortion is to administer a drug through a woman's abdomen. using ultrasound guided technology to get the drug as close to the child's heart as possible and induce cardiac arrest. And there's a couple different drugs that they'll use, but the goal of these drugs is to cause a heart attack. And then they will insert Lomeria seaweed sticks into her cervix. And the goal is, to ripen her cervix. And then in a couple of days, after carrying around her child who's deceased within her, she'll go to the abortion facility and deliver a dead child.
Yeah, that's absolutely horrible.
I mean, this is what's interesting about this way this procedure is done, Gina, is we hear a lot. Actually, something of students' lives got fact-checked today on Instagram, and their abortion industry fact-checkers. Facebook literally was employing abortionists to do fact-checks on pro-lifers, just FYI. They fact-checked a video that our spokesperson made. It said abortion is never medically necessary. And we hear this all the time, abortion is medically necessary. Or abortion has to be legal in these late circumstances because a life-threatening condition exists. I'm not disputing that there's life-threatening conditions, but there are women where remaining pregnant is too life-threatening. However, if a woman, just think about this for a second, if a woman's life is at risk, but she can no longer remain pregnant, why do you think administering digoxin into her child's heart, causing cardiac arrest, and then waiting 2 or 3 days for her cervix to ripen to deliver a dead child is a good idea? If a woman can no longer be pregnant, it's too life-threatening. What the doctor will do is he or she will commit a C-section, and they will deliver the child. And then the goal is you have the NICU there, you have every neonatologist you can get there, and you can administer care to that child. Even if there's only a 5%, 10% chance that child can live, you can try. And there's a massive difference in physician intent. The goal in that circumstance is to save life, preserve life. And the goal of the OB/GYN is to see 2 lives saved. But if 2 lives can't be saved, at least save 1. The goal in abortion is always to end a life. And so it's true, abortion is never medically necessary. If she can no longer remain pregnant, you can deliver a child. There's nothing that says, it's safer for her to give her child a cardiac arrest, let her walk around 2 days with a dead child inside her, and then go into labor. If her life is at risk, why would you wait? Why would you put her through something that has its own list of complications for women? Sorry, I'm angry at Instagram with that.
No, it's good that you're passionate because you make us feel passionate about it.
Like it doesn't make sense, right?
Absolutely. So that's exactly what we're going to be dealing with here in California. You know that we have Proposition 1 on the ballot. We've talked about that.
That's right.
And there is a campaign that has been put together to work to defeat this proposition. Mm-hmm, and I know you know all about what's going on in California, but it's the same thing. It's at 23, 24 weeks, a baby has a better chance to survive outside the womb. So, maybe the health department and our schools and doctors will start talking about that more often because, at that point, why abort at that late term? And
we all know human beings who are walking around this earth who are born premature. We all know
absolutely that. My sister was.
Yeah. We've all heard their stories. And so it's unbelievable, the fear-mongering that, once again, why, Kristan? I shouldn't be surprised these people advocate for killing babies, but the fear-mongering that's, I'm going to be going back on campuses in a few weeks, and I'm going to be at Yale and Harvard, Clemson, USC, and I'm sure it's going to be, there'll be some aggressive protesters, and I think a lot of people will be ginned up to, when I'm on campus. But it's unbelievable to think that some of these folks think that abortion should be legal in the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th month of pregnancy. And these folks really are the fringe, because it doesn't matter what polling you look at. When you ask Americans, regardless of whether they see themselves as left or right, Democrat, Republican, over 70 and over 80% in these polls, you'll see say abortion shouldn't be illegal at these moments, that there's no reason for a woman to have the right to choose the end of the life of her child when I know somebody who was born at that age.
Absolutely. Well, of course, everyone knows California is one of the most radical pro-abortion states in the nation. And this proposition is 2 short paragraphs that states that the state cannot interfere with a woman's right to abortion. The interesting thing about the language of Proposition 1 is that there are no limitations placed upon the woman, and she can have an abortion all 40 weeks, anytime during the 40 weeks. And it's interesting that the author of this text Ed doesn't want to acknowledge that that is really what's going to happen in California. So I think that the Stop Prop 1 campaign has a great chance for victory to stop this from becoming an amendment to the Constitution. And hopefully we can help, you can help us get the word out about what we're doing here in California.
Absolutely. And we'd be honored to help you with that. And this is such an important battle. I'm very nervous about what's happening there in California because, I think a lot of folks across the country say, oh, it's California, it doesn't matter. What happens in California absolutely matters. And it's considered a bellwether for many states. You all, sadly, were the leaders in passing the chemical abortion legislation to demand that state-funded universities have to dispense these dangerous pills that lead to injury, infertility, and death. And now we have other states across the country who are picking up similar legislation. And it's being, hey, it was passed in California, taking effect in California. And so what happens in California should deeply concern all of us.
Are there other states that have abortion enshrined in their constitution? I really don't know.
There are other states that have, it's not really that I can say off the Constitution, but their state Supreme Courts have found, I'm using air quotes, in writing, in invisible ink, the right to abortion in the Constitution. So Kansas Supreme Court found a right to abortion that was suddenly discovered in their Constitution. This is something why I've been vehemently opposed the passage of the ERA, which the amendment that almost passed in the 70s. My mentor Phyllis Shackley helped defeat it. There's been this big effort to bring the ERA back, and a lot of people are like, why? Why would you want to bring it back? The reason they want to bring it back is because states that have passed state ERAs, New Mexico, Connecticut off the top of my head, after they pass a state ERA, and these ERAs they're like 2 paragraphs. The state ERAs, the state Supreme Court then will go back and say, you have passed the state ERA, therefore women's bodies have to be like the normative, which is the male body. And so therefore they have to have a taxpayer-funded right to abortion, which is interesting because what's happening is, from a feminist perspective, the state Supreme Courts are saying that the hetero male body is the normative standard. And that if women don't have access to abortion, they can't be like men, and they can't have male bodies, and they can't have success like men. And so there's a whole very anti-feminist argument that can be made from these state Supreme Courts and their rulings when they find abortion in their Constitution.
Yeah, well, the work that you've been doing has been remarkable, and we appreciate your explanation of all these things. So now I want to start talking about your upcoming event, Standing with Her. So tell our audience about that and how they can tune in.
Yes, so this coming Sunday, August 28th, we're hosting Standing with Her Sunday. This is an idea I had back in February, knowing that this road decision was going to go, knowing that we have a big problem where folks across the country don't know about all the nonviolent resources that exist. And I think the church has to be the number one place where she can go and get information. And so the goal of Sing with Her Sunday is to arm Christians across the country with a virtual tool belt of sorts of all the different resources that exist, whether it's our Standing With You online resource, whether it's Heartbeat International's option line, whether it's supportafterabortion.com, whether it's chemical abortion pill, abortion pill reversal network. There's all of these resources that are out there. And we have all heard as pro-lifers and as Christians this whole time, and we've been hearing a lot, you're so pro-life, you don't care about a woman or a child after the child's been born. What do you really do to help women? When in reality, we're the only ones. We are the only ones helping women, and especially we see this on campuses. You don't see the pro-choice group on campus setting up babysitting nights or diaper decks or raising money for scholarship funds or praying parent students. It's always the pro-life students. So Standing With Her Sunday, the goal is to arm Christians across the country with these tools where they can spread the good news really about what the abortion industry not doing, but what the pro-life movement has been doing for 50 years of starting, supporting, and sustaining all of these resources. And so you can go to standingwithhersunday.org. You can get all the information. You can join us live in Colorado Springs at Charis Bible College, or you can join us virtually with your small group or at your church or just in your comfort of your home.
Fantastic. We
I'm
sent
sorry,
out.
my whole family, I've told them to be quiet, but I think they don't realize how loud they are.
No, you're fine. I love it. We sent out a lot of information about the event, and Pastor Jack, as a matter of fact, recorded a video today, and we'll be sending it over tonight to get.
That's right.
Yeah, so that you can post it there online. But yeah, we are very excited about this for you, and we are very supportive of your work. We just had you this past summer here at Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, and it was just wonderful to have you. And Kristan, thank you so much for giving us your evening and taking the time to be with us. We love you. We love your work.
Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for all that you guys are doing at Real Impact and Calvary Chino. It was so fun to be with you all this spring and to see so many Christians gathered who were really ready to get on the streets and to get on the ground floor and do the hard work to change our culture. So it's an honor.
Well, God bless you. I'll see you around. Take care. Well, that was a great time with Kristan, and so now we want to transition into exactly what's happening in California right now. As I had mentioned, we have Prop 1 that is going to be on the ballot this November. Proposition 1 is going to amend the California Constitution, saying that women have the right to an abortion and the state cannot interfere. It is 2 short paragraphs. The interesting thing about the language is that there are no limitations to when a woman can have an abortion. So that means through all 40 weeks, a woman can have an abortion in California if this passes in November. So this means citizens, Christians, Californians, everyone needs to get out and vote this November on this proposition, because we do not want to see generations to come having late-term abortions. We don't want to see it becoming very commonplace. Right now, the law in California says that a woman can have a late-term abortion for the life and health of the mother. That is the only way this can happen. But if Prop 1 passes, this is not going to be a restriction. So that's going to change abortion in California for sure, and we will have more and more women coming to California to get their late-term abortions. So there has been a campaign that has been put together, stopprop1.com, and it's up and running. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, because it's, I think, really good news for this campaign. We recently did a poll through Rasmussen with amazing outcomes, because we learned that 79% of likely voters in California oppose late-term abortion. That is such great news that you all need to be talking about it, because if you talk to the average person who is pro-choice, when you ask if he or she is in favor of late-term abortion, most of the time you're going to hear that person say, absolutely not. I mean, it's horrendous to think of aborting a baby moments before he or she is going to take its first breath. So that's good news for us. And another interesting part of that poll was that 63% of likely voters in California say that a fetus has the right to life from the moment of conception to 6 months. Still, great news for our side, those that value life in the womb. So I want you to know about the website that will be up soon, stopprop1.com. And if you go there, you're going to get things like talking points, all the points that you need to know when you're talking to family and friends and coworkers about why you want a no vote on Prop 1. You're going to get flyers and infographics and things for your church. And if you want to take flyers out to events, to meetings that you may go to, all of that will be on the website. We're also going to have social media graphics that you can download, put on your church website, on your personal social media. All that will be prepared for you. We're also going to have letters for pastors that a person who does not attend Calvary Chapel Chino Hills can print a letter introducing Proposition 1 to the church leadership, the pastor, the church board. And also accompanying that letter would be a legal letter describing to the church why it is legal for a church to get involved in this campaign to defeat Proposition 1. So we're looking forward to all the materials that will be on the website. Even Spanish-speaking materials are being prepared, and hopefully other foreign languages too. But at that website, you'll be able to sign up to volunteer. You'll be able to find out about our events. And you can go there, stopprop1.com, or you can also sign up at the realimpact.us website for our updates. And don't forget to get our app, because we'll be sending out a lot of updates through our app. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope that you found this time with Kristan informative and you enjoyed it. Keep tuning back, because we will keep you informed about what's going on with Prop 1. And we look forward to a victory in November. So thank you so much for tuning in. Take care.